Welcome everyone, this is Tim Pullman and you're listening to the SEP Couch. This podcast is all about standard essential patents. We talk about patent strategies, friend licensing, patent pooling, and patent litigation. So let's dive into today's episode. He holds a PhD in wireless communication. He is also a named inventor of more than 100 granted patents, and today he is the head of licensing of Xiaomi. I'm very, very happy to have here Ran Chu today in or on my SEP couch. Welcome, Ran.
Thank you, Tim. Nice to see you again. Yeah, and I'm very glad that I can have the chance to participate in this session today.
Yes, and it is great having you, Ran. I think we have a great session ahead. To get started, I would love to know more about your career, how you ended up with working with SEPs. Of course, I know you started more on the technical side of things, so I would be happy to hear more.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's a long story, to be honest. I do have a technical background. I never thought that I would enter into the IP world in the early stage of my career, talking about SEP related topics. So, I got a PhD in wireless communications, and then I entered into the semiconductor business to do chip design at Cambridge Silicon Radio, and then later on in Samsung. I stayed in the UK for about 7 years, and I came back to China in 2013. I joined a startup company called Zhigu. Zhigu is a very pioneering company working on invention creation and patent monetization. And at that time, that business model was very, pioneering at that time. So I joined the startup company Zhigu as an inventor, and during my time with Zhigu, we worked on several popular topics, including wireless communications, human-computer interface, big data, cloud, and extra. So I still remember the time when I was with Zhigu. That was the time I really entered into the IP world as a invention researcher. So like you said, I'm very proud to say that I was a very productive inventor. I created more than 100 patentable inventions during the time I was in Zhigu, and all those applications has been turned into granted patents now. So in early 2016, the whole team at Zhigu was acquired by Xiaomi. That was the time that the IP strategy team was set up in Xiaomi. At the initial stage, I was the technical expert. So I worked on, patent analysis, claim trust review during my early time at Xiaomi. And later on, I started to take care of some of the licensing accounts, became a licensing manager. And gradually, I started to have more and more business discussion regarding licensing matters. As for now, I started to take care of Xiaomi's overall licensing business. So, long story short, that is the rough history about myself. Yeah.
No, that is great, Ran. And I think it's always very interesting to hear to have people in licensing, which is typically a business world, that have your technical background. You've been an inventor on granted patents yourself. I'm sure that helps. I have an economic background. I could never understand or read a patent. So I think I'm always very fascinated by that.
Right. Yeah, you're exactly right. Because, as an inventor, to, work on valuable ideas, you really get a taste about the value of the technology behind the patent. I think that is a very early stage important cornerstone for my later stage career. So nowadays, when we talk about the license, we talk about the value of the patent. The fundamental, is the technology covered by the patent, right? So I do have the understanding about it. So maybe that gives me some advantage when we're really talking about the value of a patent. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I someone told me in licensing is all about appreciating the value of each other's portfolios. And I think that is exactly what you're referring to, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can see that. Great. Ran, let's talk a little bit about Xiaomi, right? Xiaomi has been rapidly growing. I think sometimes in the Western world, people kind of felt like they woke up and there's this new company, because, I think the products first launched outside of, Europe or the US. But nowadays, you are in the top 3 handset manufacturers. And the goal is even, going to number 1. Tell me about it. What is a special sauce? What makes Xiaomi so successful and so rapidly growing?
Right. You're definitely right that, right now we are world number 3, and I think we ranked as world number 2 last year for some time. And you're definitely right that we want to become world number 1 in 3 years' time. That's our ambition. And, you need to set up a high goal to be really successful later on, no matter whether, you can really deliver that, but you need to aim high, right? Talking about Xiaomi's success, I would agree with you that it's definitely one of the success in smartphone business because we are the youngest Fortune 500 companies. It's definitely quite a big achievement for us. I think one of the key reasons for our success is that is about our mission. Our mission is to make sure that the customers, our users, can enjoy our products at a reasonable price. So we offer the best quality products at a reasonable price, and our daily operation and our daily work, that is totally aligned with our mission. Another key successful factor is about business model. So we started selling our smartphone through internet. So basically we borrow the internet concept to make our phones and sell our phones. Through that, you can increase the efficiency of the whole value chain, including upstream and downstream. And I think the efficiency is the core of our business model. That's how we grow to this size today, and we still, try to drive our business toward the direction in the future, and we want to become more and more successful. Yeah.
Great. No, that is very exciting. And happy to see you go for number 1. Very good. But also, especially here in Europe and the US, your fame is also beyond the handsets, right? They're robot vacuumers. I own one, by the way, on the market. They're smart TVs. They're electrical bikes. And, your CEO even announced an electrical vehicle going to be launched soon. I know it's hard to say, but, where do you think Xiaomi will develop to? How will this company look like in 5, 10, 15 years from now?
Right. So you're definitely right that we are not exactly like the traditional smartphone makers, because we also offer a variety of IoT devices. And our customers, they like our phones for sure, and they also like our IoT devices. So that is quite different from a smartphone or handset maker only, right? To be honest, it's very hard for me to imagine, what Xiaomi would become in 5, 10, or 15 years, right? But I think if we can really, make sure that our products can cover every corner of our daily life, we can draw the conclusion that our dream finally comes true. That is our ambition, and we want to, use our product to improve people's daily life and let people enjoy the innovation under our products. That is our goal. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very exciting. I'm looking forward, at least following, your product releases, and I'm in particular excited about that vehicle. I think, the automotive industry changed a lot. But let's talk a bit about patents, and in particular, of course, about standard essential patents. one of the things is when you are a, let's say, new market entrant, when you're rapidly growing, when you're so successful, obviously intellectual property rights also play a role, right? And obviously you have to catch up a bit. You know, your portfolio did not start at 100%, so you had to build your portfolio. So there's of course different strategies, you know, that come along with that, especially when you think about standard essential patents, which, you know, it needs a lot of R&D investment to get a standard essential patent. How did you approach this with acquisitions and strategic cross-licensing? What was your first strategy? And maybe also talk a little bit about the history. You said, you know, you got acquired with your startup and it made the IP team of Xiaomi. So I think you started really on the green, right? You started from zero. How did that go? How did that happen?
Yeah, so obviously, you know, patents are very important for a smartphone maker, right? And we realized that in a very early stage. So basically, there are two ways to build your own portfolio. You can either do that through your organic growth, meaning that you can, you know, build your own portfolio by filing patent by yourself. Another approach is to just acquire the high value assets in the market, right? So in the early stage, we have bought a lot of patents to build our own portfolio. And at the same time, we started to build our own team to facilitate such a purpose, including our, you know, prosecution team and also standard team. So we started about 6 years ago to invest more and more on standardization efforts. We have, after 6 years, we have like a very dedicated and professional team working on standardization to participate in the standard meetings in multiple standard organizations like, you know, 3GPP, IEEE, MPAC. And, you know, through all these years investment, continuous investment, our portfolio is becoming more and more substantial. Our view on the standard essential patent value is that, you know, it can be either used for defensive purpose, or we can, you know, generate value based on it through cross license, right? I think you know, now or even in the near future, we will not monetize our patents proactively because that's not our main business. We only want to try to reduce our royalty burden so that, you know, to make the price more affordable for our users, so that, you know, our users can enjoy our products. That is our view on the value of the patents and our strategy to build a portfolio, basically.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. I think that, you know, you are more on the licensee part of things, and you need SEPs to negotiate a license. That is a typical good model. And I can only confirm our data approves. You have alone last year 1,500 contributions for 5G. That's amazing. And if you look at the data, it really sharply increased. Like you really, you know, as your market share, your 3GPP contribution share increased a lot. So that's great, I think. And also, I think good input, because 5G is only where it is, and as an innovative, because a lot of different people with different backgrounds have joined. Going back to your strategy, I know some of that is confidential, but can you elaborate a bit about your, you know, how is Xiaomi, you know, managed and how is it structured in terms of your different IP teams? What kind of teams do you have? How do you approach licensing? How do you approach litigation? Something like that.
Okay, no problem. Yeah. What I can share with you is that we have, you know, all the functions related to IP for sure, right? We have dedicated prosecution team, patent licensing acquisition team, and also patent litigation team. So our team only focuses on patent licensing and the patent acquisition. Just to be clear that our team doesn't handle any litigation matters. We have a dedicated team under our legal team for such purpose. So we believe that, you know, we run our licensing team more like a separate business unit, because we believe that, you know, licensing matter is more like a business issue rather than a legal issue. And we try to resolve this issue through, good faith business talk rather than through litigation. But sometimes you have to face the situation that you enter into a litigation, right? And that will be handled by our, professional litigation team at that time. That is basically how the IP teams set up internally in Xiaomi.
Very good. Yes, and of course there have been in the media also some litigation public, like the InterDigitals and Syswell. But then at the same time, you announced to sign deals with them, which is I think also a good signal, a business signal, right? Ensuring your freedom to operate. Can you tell me a bit about the challenges of how do you close a SEP license? How do you determine FRAND? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, we don't like litigation for sure. I think even for the licensors, they don't want to enter into litigations, right? So we had several litigations with multiple parties, and some of the cases are still ongoing. You are right that we reached an agreement with InterDigital and Cisco. I think that's last year, and we were able to close the deal through good faith negotiation, although there are ongoing litigations. And I think sometimes, licensing discussion, for most of the time, licensing discussion and licensing negotiation is very challenging. One of the key reasons why it's so challenging is that it lacks of transparency. I will give you an example. For most of the cases, even you make your request, you may not be able to get enough or sufficient information from your counterpart to evaluate a particular proposal from your counterpart, whether it's a friend or not, right? That is one challenge. And there's another challenge. Assuming the first challenge can be resolved, there's another challenge. It could be the case that the two parties may have different perspective on FRAND terms. So maybe your counterpart thinks this is a FRAND, and you may have a different view. It could be, that your counterpart may think it is not FRAND, your counter proposal is not FRAND, but you believe it is FRAND, right? So the different perspective may have different understanding on FRAND terms. So the negotiation gap is big, and it may make the two parties negotiate very difficultly so as to close the gap and have a deal done eventually. So I think that's the two major challenges when we talk about SEP license.
If you think about transparency and you could have a wish, how the counterparty would be more transparent, what would that be? Mm-hmm. Is it really comparable license agreements that are really comparable, or is it also about the portfolio that they offer, if it's really essential? What are the things that you would, let's just make a wish, what would you like to see more?
Yeah, I think, the factual information is relatively more easy to obtain, like, what is the size of a particular portfolio, right? How many patents are there? What is the geo coverage? What is the lifetime, right? But if we talk about, how much value is under such a portfolio, that is when it becomes so challenging and difficult. We normally may need to review the claim charts to make a judgment, but even when we evaluate a claim chart or examine a claim chart, yourself and your counterpart may have different opinions, and there's no like a third party to try to give you a judgment that two parties will eventually agree together, right? And talking about the comparable license, I think for most of the cases, the patent holder or the licensor may say that, there could be confidentiality issue. They cannot share with you enough details about the license they have signed with other parties. But it's super difficult for a potential licensee to really make a judgment call, how much, for example, the other party have paid. And even that information, how do you value your own situation against the comparable case? That's another issue to discuss. So that could be the case that you always, or for most of the time, you don't have sufficient information. And even you have got the sufficient information, the two parties may have different opinions. That makes the discussion or the negotiation more challenging. Yeah.
Right. So you're saying even if we would have everything transparent, the interpretation of a claim chart or the interpretation of a comparable license is still up to discussion and negotiation, I guess.
Yes. But nowadays, I think, the wish you make has not been realized yet. We are still talking about whether we can get such information. And maybe if we can get such information, the negotiation efficiency can be improved. And let's deal with different opinions on particular information later on. But I think the initial stage, when we talk about transparency, we are more focusing on whether I can get sufficient information for me to make the evaluation properly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And probably would be the step into the right direction. Now, Xiaomi, we discussed that already. You're big on the handset market, but you have also other, let's call them IoT devices, the robot vacuumers, your intelligent watches, the smart TVs. These also use, communication standards like Wi-Fi, like in some cases also, of course, cellular technologies, 4G, 5G. But, I'm sure we don't have any comparable license there yet, right? And I think we're just getting started how IoT devices will get licensed. And I can imagine, at least, thinking about the selling price of these products or the marginal profits of these products are much lower than for handsets, right? So I would assume, just from being an economist, well, the royalties must look very different, because otherwise you're taking companies out of business if you're asking too much royalties. On the other hand, you need to think about it, still brings value to the products. How will that be different? How do you imagine that?
Yeah, IoT, I think, when we talk about 5G, IoT definitely, fall into this 5G definition. And 5G also enables a lot of application in the IoT area, right? But I would say, IoT devices, when they connected to the cellular network, it works in a different way than a traditional smartphone, right? For example, the data that transmitted and received could have a substantially lower amount than a normal smartphone, right? So that comes to the question: how would you value the technology for such applications, right? And there's one, I heard about one notion, try to quantify the royalty you should pay with respect to, how much data you would utilize, you would transmit or receive through the network. I think that could be some direction to explore in the future. But, this is definitely one question mark here. I believe a lot of patent holders are also thinking about how to properly set up their, for example, royalty rates or licensing proposals for the IoT applications. And I would also believe that there will be a lot of debate in that area in the future. But I think if we insist on the principle that, any royalty, any licensing proposal should make sense only when we taking into account the value of the technology, I think the problem can be solved eventually.
Yes, I think very interesting. And I see again, you have your technical background. So it could be about the, in the end, the technology, how much data is transmitted. I never heard that, to be honest, but it's an interesting thought because it makes
Right.
sense. Obviously, I mean, I can imagine a smartphone transmits a lot of data. Let's say I'm on, video call with someone, and that is high definition these days. Of course, I transmit my video, my voice, I'm sharing something in my social networks. I mean, there's a constant exchange of information. While I guess that small amount of data that my vacuum cleaner sends to my Wi-Fi is, not as sophisticated. There's no video maybe, or no voice or anything, but probably just about, some small data parts, right?
Yeah. I actually, I share one story with you that happened in the past. Okay, so there were some parties I talked with or having negotiation with in the past. They position themselves or explain their licensing proposal based on whether your product includes such technology or not, and whether your device support such technology or not. But when we're really talking about a licensing proposal, for example, royalty rate, right? I think the rate should be a reflection of the value of such technology, not the fact whether it has been included in your device or not. Whether it is included in your device or not, that is just the starting point when we talk about the need of a license. But when we talk about whether the rate is friend or not, it should be combined or involved with the consideration of such a technology in real life usage. I think that is very critical. Yeah.
Right. I mean, in the end, it breaks down to how much value that patented technology brings to the product, right? And I think if you think about that as a principle, that thought makes a lot of sense. Going from licensing and SEPs to a question that I always have, I think a situation has been very, in my view, weird about the Trump administration banning some of Chinese products, Huawei here. And I know Xiaomi was never banned or anything, but they were on the list at some point, and the court released Xiaomi back from the list. Also, some of the shares of your company are owned by US Qualcomm. But still, I wonder, there's no handset, from Xiaomi on the US market yet. I don't know how much you can comment on this. I know it's a question outside of the world of IP, but in a way, people keep saying it does affect IP, right? Because if you're not selling, let's say in the US, you have a patent portfolio in the US. Our Analytics data confirms you have a strong US patent portfolio. But, if you can't sell, if you don't sell, that makes you, you could just potentially monetize those patents. But what are your thoughts around, in the market in the United States selling there? How could that ban influence things also for Xiaomi, even though you haven't been banned?
Right. I really don't want to comment too much on the relationship between China and the US, okay, because I'm not an expert. But you're right that very unfortunately we got onto the DoD list some time ago, but eventually we were able to get off that list through lawsuit. When we talk about the US market, because of the user base there, and I think it's definitely one of the most attractive markets around the world. And our management team, they mentioned this possibility of entering into the US market some time ago, a few years ago. But now I think there's just a lot of uncertainty. But I believe that if we can make our products become available, especially smartphones, become available to the US customers, they can enjoy our products, enjoy our product and the services like the other users in the rest of the world. I do believe that if we can eventually, make it to the US market, it will become more popular. Yeah.
I'm sure they will. And the patents are already there. So that is a good, way to pave your way to the US, having granted patents there. Again, good bargaining chips in negotiations in the United States. But yeah, I'm just wondering, to see that. And again, I think that is also probably why the Xiaomi brand more slowly got, more attention here in, let's say, Europe or the US. But great. This has been very exciting, Ran. I'm really excited. I'm sure also your role as a licensing executive will change when your first electric vehicle is out and you have to negotiate licenses there. And IoT, obviously, licensing, is not really happening yet, right? I mean, it's you have to just be aware of that. The world will change, and you will have a lot more to do licensing your electric vehicles, electric bikes, the vacuumers, everything. So some good times ahead, I'm sure.
Yeah. Thank you for the comments, team. Yeah, we really look forward to our new products and we're ready to face to the new possible issues in the licensing world, either on cars or on other IoT devices. I think our team, the whole company is ready for that. Yeah.
Very good. Exciting times. Well, finally, Ran, let me ask you final question, what I always do with guests on my SEP couch. What do you hope our audience will leave today remembering? This is your final pitch to the world about, your position, Xiaomi, and how the future will look like.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize again, about our company's mission. I think that this makes Xiaomi very unique in the world. So our mission again is to build amazing products with honest price to let everyone in the world to enjoy a better life through innovative technologies. So our licensing strategy and also our SEP portfolio strategy is totally aligned with such mission. SEP licensing is never easy, and I believe that there is certainly room for improvement on transparency and efficiency. So we will continue to drive our licensing work, towards such direction, and so that we can make sure that more and more people can enjoy our products. That is our aim for our team. Yeah.
Very good. Great. This was Ran Chu, the head of licensing of Xiaomi. It was great having you on the SEP couch. Hope to see you soon, Ran, and you have a great day.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.